Hey everybody, welcome to the Art of the Deals. I'm going to go over one real quick here about the differences between a house and a person. At some point or another, if you come in there late to investigate, assist the exorcist, or you're an exorcist, investigating priest, whatever the case may be, it's difficult to tell if it's a house or it's a person, and some assume the latter immediately. Because when a possession is going on with a person, they have paranormal activity going on around them. In other words, preternatural activity, and it can give indications that the house is infested, or it could begin with the house. So they don't know until they look and find out that the person's been practicing witchcraft in their room, and they gave an invitation through that, and then time has passed, and it grew over time because the person repeating the rituals, or some specific mortal sin which fuels it. And then when I mean fuel, demons are self-contained. They don't need fuel, light, or energy or anything like that. It just excites them. It gives them more power over you. So in a way that you empowered them, that God has the restrictions that are made natural. By default, they're there, and then we remove those restrictions by appeasing these demons through our actions. So that's a simple way to put it. Okay, so the difference between a house and a person. You might have the symptoms of this kind of activity around a person, and then they leave. Does it cease? Not necessarily, because they have actually affected the room. And you know why? Because if they did the witchcraft in a room, that room was a opening doorway. It was their spawn point. It was their tainted grounds of unholiness. So the house itself had been made that way if some person let it open. If you move into a house and someone had been there before and opened these doorways, then you're going to be the victim of whatever they let in, unless the house is properly, blessed and cleansed, or whatever you would call that ritual. You went as far as having a priest come over and do a minor rite on the house, which when you move into a new house is probably a good idea, because it's getting so bad out there that probably a large percentage of families have at least one person who's dabbling with this stuff in a secret, in the least. Like the way the boys have been hiding porn magazines under their bed. Now you have usually the girls, unfortunately, hiding the black candles and some other stuff instead of pot, where they used to hide the bags of pot. So with an infestation, we went over the details in the live Real Deal show in 2 parts. If you want to go look it up, Stages of Infestation, we go over some of the aspects of those things. Like this symbolic entry point of the front door being knocked on, which doesn't happen at all, or people may not have noticed, where you go and answer the door and there's no one there. Those happen in more severe cases. It can be more formal like that, and it can actually come blowing in harder. From experience, we've seen that, because other ones come in more subtle, especially if it's been invited in from inside the house. But when a couple moves into a house and somebody had done it before, the earmarking is that does seem to be the pattern, that there'll be a knock on the outside, as if when you moved in, it's going to have to be invited in by some small means, symbolically or whatever. That's a gesture or a sign that here I am, here I come. But if the couple themselves engage with some practice that actually invited it in, they'll probably won't even hear the knock at all, anything of that such nature. All of this stuff kind of makes sense a little bit, but some people are like, why would they need to do this? Why would they need to use a door to go in and out or anything like that? Well, it's not that they need to, but you have to also remember, a lot of houses had been blessed by priests and prayed in, and it makes those walls kind of like a Leyden jar, that an opening would be straight opening to outside. It's like opening a jail cell, that walls of a house that have been prayed in and prayed over are kind of like the jail bars, and when you open that door up, it's a free access to get through. They can't simply pass through the wall, ceiling, and door as easy as you might think, especially the lower ones. They're going to be easier to affect. They don't have the ability and the power to be able to stand Jesus' name being repeated over and over again, so they'll run off, and probably very fast, as we've seen sometimes in those 3 a.m. occurrences, and people have reported. On other ones, they might be a little more stubborn, but it's them sucking it up or demonstrating their ability to be able to suck it up. It's sort of like a brag of power. That, oh yeah, that's all you got? And that kind of thing. So if you might have like the scratchings in the walls and some of the infestation signs, like small movement of things there at 1 minute and gone another, and then back again and another yet, those things could be there and all around you. And remember, the goal of an infestation is to go zero in on one person. We're going to say one person because it's like a rare case where it's more than one person when they get to the point of oppression. No one equally goes down. And I think part of that is because they realize we're going to put all of our guns on this, and part of it's we got to isolate the person. And if you have everybody sharing the same experiences, they kind of get closer. They stay together, except by that one person going after the one who's the weakest link. Maybe they can be the best one to take the family down. You'll notice that some people will experience and other ones won't. You know, the husband will be fast asleep and the wife will be waking up. Well, in the case of Amityville, yes, I think it was true, but they embellished a lot of stuff because of the DeFeo murders. And there it would be by default. And he said he heard voices, Ronald DeFeo, built to be a haunted house. It's case history. So that the person wakes up who's being oppressed and targeted will be the one who wakes up at 3 a.m. and the other person will be sound asleep. That person could go to some extent where the oppression and possession are the next stages, or later stages. And it began with an infestation or an invitation, since they move into a house, without the symbolic knocking on the door and on that sort of thing. And we don't know. Maybe they didn't notice it. But if you go into a place and there is a possession and you don't have any of that background after you investigate, you realize there's no kind of thing that happened in the house to make it tainted. Realistically, it's kind of like absolutes here. If that person moved out, the activity should stop. But it doesn't, because when demons had invitation of some form of foothold to the person being in there, you invite the person. Let me give you an example. This is an interesting thing. So there's this one possession case, and they started getting affected a year and a half later because they took their medals off, and they just thought, hey, I don't need to pay attention to God anymore. Big mistake. So when they started going under a possession again, they noticed it was worse at the house they were living in, where the initial possession was occurring. There was two things that happened here. When that person went over there and they would leave, there would be paranormal activity in that house. So the attachment was invited in. I said, don't let them come in your house. Meet them somewhere. Until you get this done, you're going to have to bless your house every time they come over. So when they come in, they basically reinfect the house. And the activity comes again, and if they bless the house, it should be gone. And ideally, we don't know what people do to invite stuff in or make them vulnerable like that, because this isn't in every situation exactly that. But you invited the person in. It's kind of like the vampire scenario. You invite them in, you let them cross your threshold, you let them in, whatever baggage they got, fleas or whatever. Just think if they had fleas all over, some kind of bug like that, and they jump off of them, well, that's pretty much what happens to that. But you gave it invitation by giving the invitation to the person. You knew they were having issues spiritually too. Then that actually helps to aid to the problem. But this is one of the reasons why when we have a case where it needs to be an exorcism, is that we have the house blessed, just so that we can break its domain. We can wreck the spider web it might have woven. And when they come there, it'll be more of an even playfield, if you call it that, for good versus evil. And it won't be so strong and dominant in the place. Or, you have to, and you can, you get them to a neutral place, preferably a chapel or a church or some place like that. That's another story in itself, where to take them. But the idea is that if you drive a demon out at a house, then it's going to go back in. An example here, as we go, a sub-example, was the guy who had the Filipino curse, and the demon detached itself from him after he did breaking curses prayers and other stuff was done. And what it did is it left him and went into his walls, so to speak. So it jumped off of him. That's why they say don't burn Ouija boards, because you're burning a Ouija board. Someone present actually may get possessed if they're not in this proper state of grace, and that's something we have to be seriously concerned about, because we should just expect the worst. So if it's a worst case scenario and it is possible, then we should probably take precautions on every level to avoid this. So it's just saying that a possessed person can cause a house to be infested, living there. But in some cases, and we notice this more often, when they leave, the activity ceases. But it doesn't mean a demon doesn't have a domain there. Or several months down the road, if they moved out, went to California, and the couple who had the possessed child, teen or whoever, living there, doesn't notice any activity whatsoever, none whatsoever. I mean the hardships and everything, because the demon can work on a different level and just bring you down by giving you hardships and strange illnesses instead of things that go bump in the night. So those things not noted at all, I wouldn't be surprised. But then again, I wouldn't be surprised if they did leave something that lingers just by going in and out of the house, because after all, they were invited in, and you kicked them out. But you're gonna, in order to kick the demons out, you have to do it through the authority of Jesus Christ as a priest or as a homeowner to some degree. But if it's something more serious where there was a possessed person, it should be a priest. Remember, the chain of authority is that the priest is over the head of the household, and then over him is the bishop. But the bishop, for an exorcist, has allocated his bishop office to the priest. The priest is essentially an acting bishop exorcist. This is going to be notably effective. A priest who basically doing an exorcism versus one that's been appointed by his bishop to that office, you're going to see a difference if you could see both of them in action. It won't be a piety either. It's just a chain of command as it goes through the head of the household. But it doesn't go all the way up to the Pope. Like, the Pope is just supposed to snap his fingers and the demon's gone. So that's an illusion. It'll be a bishop level from the rest of the way up. It doesn't keep going up like the cardinal's going to have more authority than the bishop, just from what we understand. Because some things have been said, such as holy water blessed by one priest versus another won't be any more blessed. Well, but then I say, so Padre Pio blessed this holy water, then that's no more effective than if my parish priest did it? And then the person goes, So it's like they didn't think about that when they stated this thing they teach you in the catechism. So another one of those ideally things. So I don't know if this is really so much of a diagnosis. We're just talking about the way that infestations and houses can interchange with possessions. One can cause the other. Being possessed and you move someone in your house can be infected even if the person moves out shortly after. So this is mainly what we're getting at and we're talking about. But I would like to end it right there. And just say God bless you and thank you for watching. For the Art of the Deals, I'm Brother Kenneth, and I'll see you next time, or rather, you'll see me. Take care. 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 Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on The Real Deals on the YT. And click on the bell for notifications so that you'll be notified every time we upload new content.